Welcome back to Champion News Talk Radio. Before the break, we were talking with Israel Ortega and Deb Gordils about Puerto Rico and what is going on in Puerto Rico and how the Republicans are going to be able to message to the Hispanic community.
Sure.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, one interesting thing I think people should know is so the Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico cannot vote in the general election, but the Puerto Ricans in Florida can vote. And so that's why the president was in Miami the night before he went to Puerto Rico, raising money there as well. So him going to Puerto Rico is also to fulfill a campaign promise he made, but also looking at the 2012 election.
Yeah, there's over 850,000 Puerto Ricans living in Florida.
They should come to Chicago. Anybody can vote in Chicago.
As often as you want.
Your name could be Bushman.
That's a whole
and
nother
there's a
show.
dead gorilla, and he can vote.
Right.
So,
people
yeah,
vote?
and we have 4.6 million Puerto Ricans living in the United States in comparison to 4 million living on the island.
Yeah.
So, and those 4.6 million conceivably can register to vote, if they're 18 and over.
Right.
So there's a huge population. Immigration is not an issue with Puerto Ricans. They're all born natural citizens of America. And so we have this huge opportunity here. And obviously, President Obama's him and his staff have been reading my Facebook posts because I have been shouting about targeting the Puerto Rican vote because of the fact that immigration is not an issue, and it's a place where Republicans as well as Democrats are welcomed in there, and to court this particular group, and that's what he seems to be doing.
Yeah.
He was doing that in Puerto Rico, was courting that group.
If I could go back to Puerto Rico itself, I think is interesting. We're talking about this. Actually, I was able to interview the governor of Puerto Rico, Luis Fortuño. I sat down with him for a brief interview that we posted. In fact, the interview can be found on libertad.org. People can see it. What's interesting about him, he's a Republican, he's a conservative, this governor of Puerto Rico. And I asked him, well, what are you doing, to get your economy going? And he said, look, I took on a special interest. I didn't blink. The labor unions attacked me. He's like, but I didn't raise taxes. And, and people, Puerto Ricans are seeing that, and I think that's the kind of stuff that needs to happen in Washington, where you have politicians who are just looking out for themselves and don't want to take on the special interest. And this is why, we're suffering the way we are.
Do you think that the Republican message of having better policy for job creation will resonate, entrepreneurship, being able to have innovation again?
Yeah.
Why worry about just that revolution? You got the biggest revolution this country has ever seen going on, honoring the Constitution, and it's called the Tea Parties. What are all these people upset about? It's because our politicians have run away from the real America.
Right.
And
what
are we doing? We got all kinds of people out there teaching the Tea Party people the details about what's in our Constitution. But who needs to really teach them the details? They've amassed by the millions around the whole country. And what is their gripe? Their gripe is that our present government has run away from what it really constitutes America, and they're all busy learning about the Constitution.
But now how does that integrate within the Hispanic community?
Well, Tea Partiers, at least in Chicago, they are already working with Hispanic candidates. I know we have the Chicago Tea Party, thanks to Jack's generosity. The Chicago Tea Party shares the office space in Chicago there on Irving Park Road. And
how do they get in touch with you there, Deb?
1-773-472-8683.
Say it again.
1-773-472-VOTE, V-O-T-E. That's how you get in touch with us in Chicago. But they are working. As a matter of fact, the Chicago Tea Party sent somebody to Puerto Rico to be with the Chicago candidate who is taking up the congressional race against Luis Gutierrez, and he was welcomed, and a staunch Republican.
And I recently I recently hosted a panel in Dallas. The Heritage Foundation puts together this event every year. We invite 700 people from around the country and around the world, actually. And one of the panels we had was about Hispanics and the conservative movement, that kind of thing. And I invited George Rodriguez, who's from San Antonio, and he has a large Tea Party down there. San Antonio, as we know, big Mexican population, big Hispanic population. He was saying, like, look, hey, despite what you might hear in the Chicago Tribune or other papers, there are Hispanic people in the Tea Party movement.
That's right.
Israel, I have a question for you, because you just mentioned Texas.
Yeah.
Across the country, since you are with the National Foundation, do you find the Hispanic population in Texas is more Republican, more conservative, versus a Chicago or a New York, a more city-oriented.
Yes. I do, and I think the polls would confirm that. And I think one of the things the Republicans or conservatives need to say is, look, like Texas and California, they're two states with two big Hispanic populations, right? California, you see a state where it has raised taxes. And it has made it very difficult for small business owners to grow and to move. And that's why the unemployment rate is as high as it is. In fact, it's the highest in any other state. Texas, on the other hand, has been responsible for a lot of the job creation that's happening, which is a lot of Hispanics there. And so when you talk to Hispanics and you say, look, which of these two states would you rather live in? What are the policies that are helping the economy grow? That's how they can get the message across.
How is Florida?
Florida, I think that their problem is the foreclosure rates. And that's maybe another hour of conversation we'd be talking about. But I think it's the same thing. You got to talk about taxes, make things practical. People are not going to care about what's happening in Washington unless they realize that it's important to them and it affects their lives.
Who are some Hispanic leaders like Marco Rubio that are coming forward?
Well, you have the new governor of Nevada is Hispanic,
that's right.
Sandoval. And you have the new governor woman in New Mexico, Susana Martinez, also Hispanic. There are Hispanics in there. They're voting conservative. They're voting Republican. They did it in Florida with Marco Rubio. Rick Perry, they're still saying maybe he'll throw his hat in for a presidential race. He's Hispanic friendly from Texas. It'll be interesting to see.
You got Jamie Herrera from Washington, in Seattle suburbs, so they're everywhere.
Do we have any good, strong Hispanic leadership here in Illinois? We're going to be talking about that after the break.
Well, there is. It just didn't come to mind. We should be advertising that.